So now for states to come back in to the United States, these 11 southern states that broke away to have a slave nation, to get back in, this is the oath of loyalty you had to take to get back in to the United States. To come into the United States, you have to swear before Almighty God, number one, that you will obey the laws pertaining to civil rights and slavery and the new constitutional amendments, and two, that you'll uphold the Constitution of the United States, which now has the 13th Amendment in it. And by the way, to show you how serious they took the oath, they didn't take an oath on the Bible. They didn't just raise the right hand and say, "So help me God." They take an oath on the Holy Evangelist of Almighty God. You see, we know that when we put our hands on the Bible, we're putting it on the Gospels. That's Jesus Christ. We claim to be a Christian nation.
Wow.
We're swearing on Jesus Christ, whom we claim to follow, that we will obey the Constitution, and we're swearing on the Gospels that we will obey the civil rights laws. This was a serious oath. I mean, this is the official document put out by the United States, and you're swearing on the Holy Evangelists of Almighty God. Now, the various states would put out this document as well, but I mean, this is part of our history.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, because of the 13th Amendment, for the first time, African Americans across the South are free. Now, they were freed in the Emancipation Proclamation, but South is pretty much ignoring that. So now we got a constitutional amendment, and you're swearing you're going to uphold the Constitution. So now you got to recognize blacks are free. Because they were free, they could register to vote. They started registering to vote. They started electing blacks to office across the South like crazy.
Because of the 13th Amendment and the end of slavery, black Americans, particularly in the South, could now enjoy their first real taste of civil rights, their first genuine opportunity for political participation. Within a year, blacks were registering to vote and were forming political parties across the South. For example, at a rally in Houston, Texas, on July the 4th, 1867, 150 blacks and 20 whites formed the Republican Party of Texas. And black Americans also started other Southern Republican parties as well. For a few years, Republicans became the political majority in most of the Southern states. Those Republican legislatures moved quickly to protect voting rights for African Americans, prohibit segregation, establish public education, and to open public transportation, state police, schools, and other institutions to black Americans. Not only were the Southern legislatures at that time Republican, but at least for a few years, nearly every Southern legislature included many black legislators. In fact, the first 42 blacks elected to the state legislature in Texas were all Republicans. And in Louisiana, the first 95 black representatives and the first 32 black senators were, again, all Republicans. Similarly, in Alabama, the first 103 blacks elected to the state legislature were all Republicans. In Mississippi, the first 112 black legislators were Republicans. In South Carolina, the first 190. In Virginia, the first 46. In Florida, the first 30, and the same in North Carolina. And in Georgia, 41 blacks were elected to the state legislature, all as Republicans.
The Republican Party of Texas was founded in Houston on the 4th of July, 1867, by 150 blacks and by 20 whites. Nearly every Southern Republican Party was started by blacks, not whites. Well, of course, in those states, they're opposing this. The racists are really out, and Democrats are saying this is not fair. And because they would not recognize the civil rights laws, even though they swore to do so, that's why the 14th Amendment was passed. The 14th Amendment says every freed slave now has the rights of citizenship of every other citizen. Because in the South, the Southern states are saying, well, those blacks might be freed, but they're sure not citizens of our state. Well, the 14th Amendment says, oh, yes, they are. Wow. Any right of citizenship. And because of the 14th Amendment, we can now elect blacks to the federal Congress. These guys right here. That's the first 7 blacks elected to the federal Congress, right there. This guy is the first black U.S. Senator, Hiram Rhodes Revels. Oh, dare I say, he's a preacher of the gospel. He was a missionary. He was a chaplain in the Civil War. He raised 3 black regiments for the Union Civil War. He went on to become the president of Alcorn College. And over on this side, really cool guys, Robert Brown Elliott, Joseph Hayne Rainey. Joseph Hayne Rainey, by the way, is the first black elected to the House of Representatives. He actually served as Speaker of the House. A black served as Speaker, yeah. All 7 of these guys are Republicans. Matter of fact, the first 23 blacks elected to the federal Congress were all Republicans. Now, you want to get embarrassed, there is a great website called Neglected Voices. Neglected voices are the speeches of the first 23 blacks that served in Congress. Now, half of these guys have been educated in a 5-year period, and they were self-educated. They taught themselves. I'm embarrassed to read those speeches because it takes me a dictionary to understand what they're saying. Their word level, their vocabulary level, their syntax, sentence structure, way over anything I would ever think about saying or doing. I get so inspired reading these guys. I mean, here they are. 5 years ago, they're slaves. Now they're members of Congress, and you read their speeches, and it'll throw you through the roof. It'll lift you right off your chair to see what these guys did. Unbelievable. 4 of these guys became university presidents. Half of them became teachers. Several were pastors. I mean, it's unbelievable what these guys did in a short period of time. Wow. And we never hear that today. So that aspect of American history that deals with ending slavery and starting forward progress for African Americans, wonderful time in history, filled with wonderful individuals who fought. There's a lot of tragedy involved, but there's a lot of victory involved, and these guys are representative of that time. It's a wonderful time in American history.
For more information on the American Heritage Series, or to find books and other resources, visit wallbuilders.com. Through the American Heritage Series, renowned historian David Barton communicates our nation's forgotten, godly foundations and encourages us to once again view history through a truthful lens. For only when we recognize and embrace God's hand in our history can America become all that it was intended to be. Through Wall Builders, historian David Barton seeks to rebuild the walls of America's unique religious, moral, and constitutional heritage by educating the public and encouraging people of faith to become active in strengthening America's great foundations. For more information on how you can become involved, visit wallbuilders.com.